Hello, everyone, and welcome to YB Davidson Reading Room. Thank you for joining us. The YB Davidson Reading Room features excerpts from books written by unpublished authors. So if there's anyone listening who've written a book and wish your book to be featured, please let me know through the comments section, as there are many talented writers out there that for one reason or another publishers just seem to ignore. So here at YB Davidson Reading Room, we would like to feature those talented writers and let you decide. Let's get comfy, and I hope you enjoy listening as we will begin. The title of today's novel is Great Yve Said FYI. Now, all the titles in the Declan and Yve Mystery Romance series are anagrams. So if you can figure out what the true title of Great Yve Said FYI, please leave that in the comments section, and I look forward to reading those. So let us begin. The Bentley family entered Lord Scott's residence, were pleased to see a rather large crowd, as this meant more money for the London animal shelters. Once they entered the main ballroom, they were approached by a very pretty young petite blonde-haired lady in a glamorous party dress. As Evie said, "How good to see you, Lady Christina." They hugged and kissed as Lady Christina said, "I just came to borrow Atticus for a dance," as she grabbed Atticus' hand and off they went. Evie laughed. Lady Christina was the daughter of Lord and Lady Morley. They had purchased Evie's summer manor house that she had inherited when she was young, when her parents suddenly passed away. Lady Christina was their oops baby. Evie snickered as she remembered that Declan had said it was most likely the first good shag Lady Morley had gotten in a decade, as they had two married older daughters that were twice Christina's age. The Bentley boys had grown up with Lady Christina and considered her like the little sister they didn't have, with the exception of Atticus, who would never admit it, had loved Christina for most of his young life. Atticus and Lady Christina were just made for each other, as Lady Christina was confident, smart, extremely funny, with the magnetism that all the Bentleys possessed, the type that you can't help yourself but be drawn to these people. Spencer had come beside his mother and said, "I see Lady Christina strikes again." Then before Evie could respond, he sailed off into the crowd, leaving Evie smiling, thinking they're silly sons. As Evie mixed with the various groups of people in the crowd, chatting, listening, she glanced over at her beloved Declan to see people were queuing up in an effort to gain his attention, as if you could claim Declan as a friend, not only would it enhance your social standing, but also the more influence you would gain within the upper class of society. Evie thought, although she was happy to charm these shallow people out of their money for a good cause, at the same time she was not fond of these gatherings, as this meant she got to spend such little time with Declan. Evie spotted Lord Crandall shuffling her way, so she scooted off to the back garden for a cigarette. Lord Crandall, having lost sight of Evie, shuffled over to Declan, interrupted the people who were speaking to him. "As where is my cuddle bunny gone? I just saw her, then she disappeared." Declan, with a smile on his face, shook Lord Crandall's hand, said, "How nice to see you again. I have no idea where she is, but I'm certain the Duchess will return up sooner or later." Lord Crandall gave Declan the evil eye, then shuffled off as the lovable Lord Montrose appeared at Declan's side. Darby asked, "What did the old lech want?" Declan laughed, said he's looking for Evie, but she managed to escape. Lord Crandall, who was approaching 90 years old, was the party's circuit lech. As he was an innocent, elegant-looking short man, he would approach only short women, try to French kiss them, while grabbing their bottoms. It was a joke among all who knew him. Lord Crandall was the only man Declan ever let touch his Evie, as their families had known each other for generations. Any other man touched Evie, Declan would see to it they never did that again. It was common knowledge on their social circuit. The Duke's wife was off limits. Evie had finished her cigarette, was heading back into the party when she was cornered by Lady Halpern, who said, "So nice to see you, Duchess." Evie said, "Nice to see you as well," thinking to herself she wasn't keen on Lord and Lady Halpern, as they were constantly intruding into the Bentley family lives in an effort to have their daughter marry one of their sons. The parents didn't seem to care which one, as long as it was a Bentley boy in the effort of improving their social and financial standing. Lady Halpern said, "So nice to see Lord Tristan dancing with our Sophie. They make such a nice couple." Evie, surprised by this, said, "I have no idea who Tristan is dancing with, as all our boys dance with many of the ladies throughout the evening." Lady Halpern said, "Don't you agree that it's time that Lord Tristan settled down, as my Sophie would make an excellent wife for him, as I have heard the rumours of him having trouser troubles. But as I explained to Sophie, that shouldn't be an issue, as men like Lord Tristan can't help themselves, as all the slapper girls are always at the ready." Evie couldn't believe what she was hearing. Said, "Tristan is just back from Scotland. I doubt very much he will be settling down with anyone soon," thinking to herself, "and most certainly not with that drip of a daughter of yours." Lady Halpern said, "I really think you should have a chat with him. I would be most grateful." Evie said, "I must get on." As she was walking away, under her breath to herself, she said, "I bet you would." Evie, who was relieved having extricated herself from Lady Halpern, to look over and see their second youngest son, Spencer, surrounded by a group of women who he was no doubt regaling with ridiculous stories. Evie smiled and shook her head. Evie, who was looking for Declan as she had had enough, when Atticus sailed by laughing, then asked her why the evergreen trees never shake in their back garden like the one in Lord Scott's do. Evie, thinking their youngest has lost the pot, ignored his silly comments. Indeed, the evergreen trees did in fact shake in Lord Scott's back garden, as Tristan was engaged in rumpy-pumpy with Lady Sophie in amongst the trees, only to be caught by his older brother, Lexi, who was laughing at the sight of his brother with Lady Sophie. As Lady Sophie turned 8 shades of red, then skivvied off back to the party. Lexi said to Tristan, "Do they not have women in Scotland?" as he laughed. Tristan said, "She offered, so I accepted. You didn't really think I would decline, risk offending her," as they laughed. Evie finally found Declan, still surrounded by an endless stream of people, slipped her hand into his as he extricated himself from the group, took his lovely wife for a spin around the dance floor. The guests, all mesmerized by the sight of Declan and Yve, who danced with such elegance, as they smiled at one another, gliding around the dance floor as if they were floating above the floor, was magical to see. Having danced, the Bentley family gathered in the front hall of Lord Scott's home, bid their goodbyes, and floated back to their London home. Next chapter is The Shoes and the Stalker. While Declan was busy at the Bentley Foundation offices with the assistance of Lexi, their eldest son, conducting foundation business, Evie decided to walk to the shops. As Evie entered and exited each of her favorite shops, she was purchasing ingredients for her baking for the bake sale to be held at the hospital to raise funds. She didn't notice the man following her. Declan had always worried for Evie's safety, as she was resistant to having any type of personal security. So oftentimes Declan would send along Corey, who was his personal security, to accompany Evie on outings, as this gave comfort to Declan. However, Evie, for that very reason, rarely would tell Declan, give him prior notice as to what she would be doing while he was at the office and out of his sight. The man following Evie was a professor at Cambridge by the name of Felix McNeil. Felix had spotted her while shopping in Harrods one day and was mesmerized by her, so he followed her home, then continued to follow her every chance he got. Felix had no idea who she was. He was hoping to gather the nerve one day to introduce himself to her. Evie, unaware of the man following her, entered the tea shop to meet Lady Cindy. As they hugged and then sat, while sipping their tea, Lady Cindy noticed the man sitting at a table not far from theirs. Cindy thought to herself that she had seen the same man the last time she had met Evie for luncheon at Claridge's. or maybe she was seeing things. They chatted, got caught up in each other's news. It was time to go, so Lady Cindy decided to let Evie exit the tea shop first, as she was curious as to what the man that she thought may be following Evie would do. As soon as Evie left the tea shop, the man rose out of his chair, then left the tea shop as well. Cindy, very curious as to if it was coincidence that the man left right after Evie, or was he following her? Cindy shook her head and thought, I must be spending too much time with criminals, as she was starting to suspect everyone of being up to no good, then laughed. Evie, while walking home, still unaware of the man following her, laughed to herself, thinking, I hope Declan is home when I get there. She was hoping to sample his delights. Declan wasn't at home as Evie had hoped. He was enjoying drinks with their best friend, Lord Montrose, who was staying at the private men's club he was a member of since he was a wee lad, when his father would take him there. Seated in the soft leather wing chairs, sipping their rare scotch, when Declan asked Darby, when are you going to shag Cindy? Darby said, I have no idea what you are jabbing on about. Declan laughed, said, you are turning into a hermit. She's gorgeous and for some unknown reason fancies you, although I can't imagine why. Darby said, I dare say you are misinformed, as I heard that she's going around with some judge chap she works with. Declan said, someday you will need to settle down and give up the tart you have stashed over in Bethnal Green. Darby, with a shocked look on his face as Declan laughed, said, what tart? Declan laughed and said, you didn't think you could hide her from me now, did you? Darby said, there you go again, so misinformed. I'm not hiding anyone, let alone in Bethnal Green. I wouldn't even know where that is. Darby was thinking to himself, how the hell did Declan find out about him and his tart Susie? Declan laughed, said, don't you know by now I will always watch over you, as it's obvious you can't look after yourself. Darby said, I take real offense to this intrusion, all the while thinking how comforting it felt to know as he had no family of his own, that Declan, whom he loved like a brother, kept an eye on him. Declan said, I hope you wear a condom. Darby said, why would I need one of those? I have no intentions of engaging with any woman that might give me some frightful disease. Darby, as a way to deflect the conversation away from his tart, Bethnal Green said, isn't it time for you to run along home to the delicious Evie, as she must be waiting for you? Declan laughed, drank the remainder of his scotch, gave Darby a hug. As they said their goodbyes, Darby sat back in the soft leather chair, ordered another scotch as he thought of his tart Susie in Bethnal Green. He had happened upon her on the opening night of a new art exhibit he had attended. Darby thought how correct Declan was. Susie was a tart from a very rough part of London. Darby, when he first started engaging with Susie, he found her very amusing, as she was nothing like the women in his social circle. Darby is a very wealthy earl whose estate Rose End was next door to the Bentley estate in a seaside village not far from London. The families had been friends going back many generations. Not only was Darby the very wealthy Lord Montrose, he, like Declan, also sat in the House of Lords. Darby laughed to himself, as Susie knew he had money, at least a lot more than anyone she knew, but that didn't bother Darby, as he enjoyed the rough rumpy-pumpy Susie liked to engage in. And Darby was no slouch in the looks departments. He was a gorgeous, well-built, 6 foot 1 inch tall natural blonde with the most intense green eyes. Women queued up from him everywhere he went, but he was enjoying his freedom to give any of them a serious look. Darby had over the years developed the reputation of being the gibberish-speaking lord who needed to be handled with kid gloves, as he was best friends with Declan, the Duke of Northumberland, who was one of England's wealthiest and most powerful men. Darby revelled in being the gibberish-speaking lord, which nothing could be farther from the truth, as everyone who really knew Darby knew he was an extraordinarily clever man. Evie, who was waiting on the terrace, sipping her morning cappuccino that Declan made for her while smoking one of her dreadful cigarettes, as he entered the terrace, gave Evie a hug and a kiss, then sat down. Declan said, I'm sorry, babe, but we will have to go riding this afternoon, as I just received an urgent call from Giles, and I need to deal with this morning. Evie smiled, said, "Not to worry. I'll be waiting and ready whenever you are finished." Declan looked at her with so much love in his eyes as she never admonished him for always having to change their plans. Evie just always accepted. Declan rose from his chair, kissed Evie passionately, then left for his study. Declan rang Giles back. Giles, whom Declan had known for years, had risen through the ranks to become head of a covert operations branch that was run out of the Foreign Office. This covert operations branch dealt with, oh, excuse me, the most secret and sensitive operations around the world. Giles answered the phone, said, "How can I help?" Declan said, "This is the Duke returning your call." Giles said, "I can't thank you enough for returning my call, and I'm sorry to disturb you. However, we have a situation that, if possible, requires your unique expertise." Declan said, "Please go on." Giles said, "We have some very damaged packages that are stuck in a village just on the other side of the Turkey-Syrian border. There is currently no other couriers or postal service in that area that could assist us in retrieving these very important packages. Would you have the means in the area to assist us by any chance?" Declan thought to himself, these chaps never learn, always getting themselves in trouble, then expecting someone else to take the high risk of bailing them out. Declan said, "I may have what you are looking for. Perhaps you could visit my London office. I will make arrangements for you to speak with my son, Lord Alexander." Giles said, "This would be most appreciated by all concerned, as we would be forever in your debt." Declan burst out laughing and said, "Do you think?" Giles laughed, said, "I really do think." Declan said, "I will have someone contact you with the arrangements to speak to Lord Alexander shortly, as I'm certain time is of the essence." Giles said, that it is, as they rang off. Declan rang the Gnome House to speak with Rusty. Rusty, whose son was a friend of Atticus, was how Rusty and his colleagues got the position of working for the Bentley family. Rusty was a retired Foreign Office and military defense head of covert operations, along with 5 of his retired colleagues, stayed in an 8-bedroom house on the Bentley estate, not far from the main house. Most of the men were divorced, all in their early 50s, who were experts in various fields of covert operations. They were a very talented group, providing covert security that only the family knew about. Everyone else thought they were nice gentlemen that were tenants of Declan's that rented the Gnome House. Thus, the family called them their gnomes. What only a few people were aware was not only did Rusty oversee the private security of the family, but he also had a small army of specialized covert agents who regularly worked amongst the Bentley Foundation's other staff worldwide, but when needed would travel the world to assist the government when a situation went into the gutter and they required bailing out. Rusty answered the phone. "Good morning, Your Grace." Declan said, "Good morning. There is a situation that has arisen that will require your expertise. I will have a conference call set up in 1 hour." Rusty said, we will be here waiting," as they rang off. Declan rang Lexi, explained the situation. Lexi, while waiting for Giles to appear, thought to himself how much he respected his father, as he knew his father had to keep these situations secret from everyone for the sake of safety of everyone involved. Lexi was happy that at least now, as his father was teaching him how each of the separate family businesses were run, as one day he would head the family, and at least now carry some of the burden for his father. As Lexi was speaking to his father, Giles had arrived, was sitting in the waiting room thinking to himself what posh offices the Duke had, but was very grateful for the enormous risk the Duke would take for his agents. Giles also thought how the Duke's offices were more secure than his, as here they could speak freely without fear of any listening devices catching their conversations. Giles was led into Lexi's office when Lexi said, "You're on speaker with the Duke." Declan asked, "What is it you wish me to do?" Giles said, "We sent 2 agents into Syria to retrieve a source that was in danger. It was to be a quick in and out. However, the 2 agents were kidnapped and the source was killed during the kidnapping." Then we sent in a 6-man team to retrieve the 2 kidnapped agents, only to discover that the 2 agents had been badly tortured by the time the 6-man team arrived. And during the escape, 3 agents of the 6-man team were injured. Now, they did manage to find safety in a small village near the Turkish border. However, we do not have any assets in the area that can assist, as this is urgent to the nature of the injuries sustained by the agents, as the 3 remaining uninjured agents haven't got the resources to move the now 5 injured agents on their own. Declan said, please give the location coordinates of these agents. Leave it with me, then someone will contact you within 48 to 72 hours to inform you of the new location of these agents. Giles said, thank you so much. I realize the risk you're taking is having been in this situation myself in the past. I also know that their families will be very grateful, although they will never know who the true guardian is. Then Giles laughed. Lexi gave the coordinates that Giles had written down to Rusty, who, unbeknownst to Giles, was also on the conference call. Rusty said, consider the mission in progress as we speak. Declan thanked Rusty as Rusty rang off. Declan said to Lexi, I really appreciate your assistance as I know this is a burden, but always remember, we do it not for the government, but for the agents and their family. As if it was up to the government, they would just leave these unfortunate loyal souls behind, and that isn't right. Declan asked, are you coming to the Manor House for the weekend as Lord Astor is having his first garden party of the season? It would be nice if you could attend. Lexi said, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Then Lexi asked, Papa, how is Tristan doing? Declan said he's doing great. I think he needs to get out of London. Why? Lexi said he isn't seeing that Sophie, is he? Declan said, not that I'm aware of. Why? Lexi said, I think we should keep an eye out for her. She's very manipulative and has set her sights on Tristan. Declan laughed, said, I appreciate you telling me this. However, your mother, who doesn't like to stick her oar into any of your personal lives, having said that, your mother would never allow the likes of the manipulative Sophie ensnare your brother. You can count on that. Lexi laughed, said, Mama sure can be a little lioness when the occasion arises, can't she? Declan laughed, said she most certainly can. I hope you enjoyed the excerpt from the book as I look forward to reading all your comments. Please leave your feedback in the comments section and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. It's free. I hope you will join me for the next episode. Until then, always remember every day is a gift.